Even though I'd been driving for well over 30 years, when I redid my driving test, I failed. And I've got a lot of friends who are driving instructors, yet when they did their test, they failed as well. Oh. And why I was reminded of that was because I just saw this post about a guy who'd been driving for over 20 years. He redid his driving test and he failed. And that was after his mate took him for a mock test. His mate's a driving instructor. Oh. And there's a reason why I'm telling you this. But before you start thinking, I'm never going to pass the test, these guys have been driving for 20 or 30 years. They're driving instructors. They can't pass the test. What hope have I got? I'm going to tell you why in a minute and why it's important. See, here's the thing. I'm a driving instructor. To become a driving instructor, you got to do a test. It's quite an extensive test. And as a driving instructor, I have to redo this test every 3 years. Now, when I first became a driving instructor, back in 2019, I'd already been driving for about 30 years. I had a car license, a motorbike license, a truck license, a skipper's ticket to drive a boat. I thought I was a pretty good driver. So when I did my assessment, the practical driving test in a car, I thought, yeah, I've got this. I've been on the road for years. I know what I'm doing. I know the rules. But no, I failed. I had to go back and reread the book and do my test again. That was embarrassing. But I've since spoken to a lot of my friends who are also now driving instructors, and they told me the same thing. They're like, yeah, that's very common. We've all been driving for years. We think, hey, let's be a driving instructor, go and do the test, and fail. This guy on the Reddit post said this: I failed my driving test after 20 years. I've been driving for over 20 years, no points, no accidents. Always thought I was pretty solid behind the wheel. A mate of mine is a driving instructor and jokingly offered to give me a proper mock test. I said yes, thinking I'd breeze it. I didn't. I failed with 2 majors and 5 minors. He goes on to say, the minors were things like inconsistent mirror checks, slight hesitation at a mini roundabout, braking a bit late, and positioning too close to the centre line. What surprised me is none of it felt unsafe at the time. It just felt like normal driving. But the test standard is way stricter than everyday driving. Honestly, it was a bit of a reality check. And he concludes by saying, if someone with 20 years experience can fail, passing first time isn't about being amazing, it's about getting it right when it counts. Now, after being a driving instructor for about 6 years, I've come to the conclusion, as have a lot of my driving instructor friends, and even a lot of the driving assessors that I speak with, that most people on the road that have had their license for a number of years, if they had to redo their test today, they'd probably fail. A lot of older people that I speak to, parents of kids that have been taught to drive, friends that I've known for years, they say the same thing. If I had to do my test again today, yeah, I'd probably fail because they've forgotten what the road rules are, or the rules have changed, or they've just completely forgotten what the expectation is at the time of the test. You see, the problem with the test is that it's very black and white. When you're tested, you have to do everything exactly by the book. If you leave in a parked position, you must indicate for a minimum of 5 flashes. Can't be 3, can't be 2, can't even be 4, must be 5. When you brake, you must check your mirror before you brake or as you're braking, not after. You have to indicate correctly at roundabouts for the right amount of time. Not too early, not too late, not too short, not too long. When you've turned a corner, you must turn your indicator off within 4 flashes of completing the maneuver, meaning you indicate, you take the corner, you're driving down the street, tick, 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 tick. It's now flashed for 5 seconds. That's one too many. That's a mark. So the problem is, as we've been driving for a long time, we forget these things. If it was 20 years ago or 30 years ago that you last did your driving test, you're going to have forgotten what the exact requirements are. Because a lot of the times I see young people go for a driving test. They haven't had driving lessons. They've been taught by mum and dad or a friend. Now, mum and dad may have great intentions, but mum and dad probably did their license 10, 15, 20 years ago, and they've forgotten how to drive to the license standard. And most parents that I speak with, they'd agree with me. They're like, I don't know what I should be teaching my son, my daughter. Man, I know if I did my test again today, I'd probably fail. I've forgotten what I'm supposed to be doing. That's very common. And as you can see, in my case, if I went and did my test back then, relying just on my memory of what I'm supposed to be doing, I'm going to fail. A lot of my friends did. This guy did after 20 years. That's very common. Something I find really strange is that the Department of Transport actually put out a book. It's called Driving Techniques for Safer Drivers. Ironically, this used to be called How to Pass Your Driving Assessment. It's the same book. They've just put a different cover on it. But inside, it's basically the same book. Really, nothing's changed other than the cover. And the amount of times I'd say to my students, did you get a copy of the book, How to Pass Your Driving Assessment? And they'd be like, oh yeah, I got that. Got it when I did my learner's permit. Okay, well yeah, everyone gets it when they do their learner's permit. But have you read it? No. Seriously, you've got a book called How to Pass Your Driving Assessment? Or something equivalent, but you haven't actually read it? But you want to pass your driving assessment? That's interesting. The bottom line is this. If you think you're going to go and do your driving test, but you haven't read the book, or you're going with mum or dad who hasn't done their driving test in 10, 20, 30 years, you're more than likely going to fail. That's the reality, because the test is based on exact strategies that they expect you to follow that are talked about in the book. And if you haven't read the book, you don't know what they are. If you're being taught by somebody who hasn't read the book or hasn't done their test in a while, then you're probably learning the wrong stuff. Or you're not being taught the right stuff. And you're not going to know what to do. And you're probably not going to pass. Now, just to be clear, as a driving instructor, I have to redo my license every 3 years. When I first became a driving instructor in 2019, yes, I failed my test the first time to be a driving instructor. But I've since redone my test 2 more times, and obviously I've passed, and I've still got a license. And in actual fact, to be a driving instructor, the test is set at a much higher standard as you'd expect it to be. Meaning, if you're 16 or 17 and you're going for your learner's permit, you have to answer like 30 questions. That's your theory test. Then you go for a drive for half an hour and you're tested on certain things. That's your practical test. Well, as a driving instructor, I have to answer 150 questions. And when I do my practical test, it's not half an hour, it's 3 hours. So yeah, it's a lot more involved. Obviously, I have to do a police clearance, medical check, working with children. So there's a few more things. And just so you know, when I'd been a driving instructor for 3 years and then redid my test, yes, I passed that time. And in actual fact, when I did the theory test, I got 100%. 150 questions out of 150 questions. Yay! I recently redid the test again, literally a couple of months ago. I again got 150 questions out of 150 questions. So yes, I know what I'm doing now. And yes, I've passed my driving instructor's test 3 times now. But the reason for this video is to help you understand that unless you're reading the book or you're getting driving lessons from a qualified professional driving instructor, you're not going to know and understand what the expectation is of you. If you're just being taught by mum or dad, that's great. And it's brilliant that they're giving you that time and it's good experience and good practice. But to pass the test, you need to know the rules, you need to read the book, or you need to get qualified driving lessons. Otherwise, you're more than likely going to be like I was, my friends that are driving instructors were, this guy of 20 years of driving is or was, where it's like we think we know what we're doing, but we really have no idea. Read the book. And subscribe to this channel if you haven't already, because I'll help you to understand this stuff. And I'll help you to pass your driving test. Let me know in the comments if you've already done your driving test. How did it go for you? Did you pass? Did you fail? And was it because you got qualified and professional driving lessons, if you passed or failed? Or have you actually been able to pass your driving test just with mum and dad taking you, and somehow you managed to pass the test in spite of reading the book, in spite of doing professional lessons? Let us know if that's the case. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.